regardless what, always dissatisfied, always unhappy. As long as we are not free from them, our mind we cannot find lasting peace and calm mind. Lasting true happiness and joy. In order to find true inner peace and joy, not only for a moment, but lasting all the time, we need to reduce and overcome those defilements. And we need to do that, overcome those defilements, or not only for our own personal inner peace and joy, but in order to be more health benefit to all sentient beings. And to reduce and overcome those afflicted emotions, we need to cultivate and develop the antidotes. For that, we need to practice, contemplate, meditate correctly, continuously. And for that, we need to learn about those practices. We need to be reminded of those practices. Therefore, I'm going to listen. In order to be greatest benefit to each and every sentient beings, I must achieve my highest potential, fully awakened state. For that, I need to practice. Therefore, I'm going to listen. And whatever I find from those teachings, I will try to apply and integrate as much as possible in my everyday life. Okay. Do that.
Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha 3 times in English. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sutra of the world, supreme God of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the outland. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sutra of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakti clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer,
the
completely perfected, fully living being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sutra knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakti clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Short mandala offering, once in Tibetan. Sajibo Jo Shin Refuge in bodhicitta, once in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I am enlightened, to the will of the Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By the merits of the Creator, listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Song Charan Soye Chanam La Chanchu Bharduda Niyatsu Chi Nage Choye Yebe Sonam Ki Droga Penche Sange Rupai Sho Sange Charan Soye Chanam La Chanchu Bharduda Niyatsu Chi Dagi Chunye Gebe Sonam Ki Drola Penche Sange Rupa
한계 두제니로는 다와 돈제 방배제 담배 춘이 된레베 고담대가 차차로 So in following this rice settling sutra, it starts with explaining the dependent arisings and how all phenomena are dependent arisings. And within that dependent arising, then next the explanation on within the dependent arising, there is external dependent arising and internal dependent arising. And then in terms of the internal dependent arisings, the explanations of the dependent arising of 12 link, how each of link lead to next link, and thereby we experience suffering and problem and pain in our life. So it explains how or why we are still tied up or bent in samsara and experience the suffering, the cause of that through the 12 link, to a link. And it also explained, that we don't have to, it doesn't have to be like that. We don't have to be in samsara and we don't have to be experiencing suffering endlessly all the time. There is end to that. It can be end, And then how can it be end? Then then by reversing those 12 link, so then it explains how we can achieve, freedom from the, aging and death and all the other sufferings that come within the samsaric rebirth, by reversing the previous links that lead to that. So I think on that, and so I think last week, I think we went up to where it explained how its links lead to that, how the ignorance lead to the karmic formations, and how the karmic formations lead to the next link of consciousness, and how that lead to the next link or name and form, and how that lead or create the next link of sixth sense power, and how that leads to the next link of the contact, and how that lead to the next link of feeling. Here, I think maybe sensation, that's what that does. And then how that link lead to the craving, and then next grasping and becoming your existence, and then samsara rebirth, and then finally aging and death. And then due to the aging of death, then the sorrow, the sorrow, limitation, suffering, unhappiness, distress, and disturbing turmoil, how it, so then all this physical pain, suffering, and mental anguish that one experience. So I think that is where we up to there. And next, he'll explain the reverse of that, how we can reverse, how can we reverse or stop aging and death by reversing or stopping the samsara rebirth, and how we can stop such samsara rebirth by reversing and stopping the becoming, the existing, and like that way, and finally by stopping the ignorance, the very beginning or root of all of them. So that is where next, where it says, when ignorance ceases, the first link. So when we are able to stop the ignorance, overcome the ignorance, then the next link, karmic formations, is ceased, because there is no cause that lead to the next link. And when karmic formation cease, the next link consciousness is, and the consciousness ceases, the next link name and form ceases. When the name and form cease, the sixth sense sources ceases, the next link. And when the sixth sense sources cease, the next link contact cease. And the contact cease, the next link, the sensation or the feeling cease. When the sensation cease, then the next link craving cease. When the craving cease, next link appropriations or the grasping cease. When the appropriation cease, becoming, the next link becoming cease. When the becoming cease, then samsara rebirth, the next link cease. And when the birth cease, then aging and death cease, And when there is no more aging and death, then there is no sorrow, limitation, suffering, unhappiness, distress, disturbing, tumulus, all that comes through the aging and death, all cease. Thus, does the entire great heap of suffering cease. This is the what Bhagwan has called dependent arisings. So dependent arising is explained from 2 points of view. One, how we continue to take rebirth in samsara and therefore continue to experience the sufferings. And the other ones, how to reverse that, how we can stop that, how to reverse and stop that, and thereby achieve, total freedom, liberation from the samsara and suffering permanently. So in terms of the first one, dependent arisings, it explains mainly from the Four Noble Truth, the suffering, the noble truth of the suffering and the causes or origin. The second dependent arising, the reverse, when it explained, then it is explaining the two other from the noble truth, then is the cessation and the path. It explained that. So again, it is as I mentioned, it's the expansion of Four Noble Truth that way. So that is because at the very beginning, Buddha mentioned, whoever sees dependent arisings, sees the Dharma. And whoever sees the Dharma, sees the Buddha. And then the question was asked, what is dependent arising? What is the Dharma? What is the Buddha? And what does it mean when Buddha explained that when you see dependent arising, you see Dharma. What is the meaning of when you see Dharma, then you see the Buddha. And so in answering that question, so then first explain what dependent arising is. The next question is what is the Dharma? So then that is where it comes. What is the Dharma? The Dharma is eightfold path of noble ones. So Dharma can have different meanings, In generally, Dharma means phenomena, that has something that it can hold, its nature. But here, the Dharma means, the spiritual, realization, practice. So the Dharma here, eightfold path of the noble ones. And what are those on? Right view, right thoughts, right speech, right end of actions, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentrations. Before that, I wanted to say something about the previous one. When you say when ignorance ceases, then karmic formation ceases. When karmic formation ceases, consciousness ceases up to aging and death. But when you say it ceases, we are not talking about that it been ceased naturally, because it's impermanent. So therefore, it ceases and then lead to that. But here, when you cease that, is something that you cease by applying the antidote. By applying the antidote, by cultivating the antidote and by applying the antidote, that is how you cease the ignorance. And when you are able to cease such ignorance through such, by applying the antidote, the right path, the right Dharma, the right path, then you can cease the ignorance. And when you cease the ignorance through that, through applying such the path, the antidote, then you can cease the karmic formation and so forth. Okay. And so the path is this Dharma that helps to cease. Okay. How can we cease? How can we stop and eliminate the ignorance? How can we stop and eliminate the ignorance? How can we? By cultivating the path, the Dharma, the Eightfold Path. That is the antidote. That is the path that can overcome the ignorance. So right view is the opposite of wrong view. You know, in Nagarjuna's commentary and Kamalashila commentary has slightly different way of explaining that. Yeah. So Dharma can be understood two things: the path and the result. The cessation, the result is also Dharma. And the path that lead to the cessation is also the Dharma. So sometimes when you say the Dharma, it can refer to two things: the result itself, the cessation itself, the Nirvana, the cessation itself, or the path that lead to that cessation, the Nirvana. You know, by cultivating the wisdom, realizing the ultimate truth of the self or the persons and the phenomena, by cultivating that wisdom and that by engaging and meditating on that, and gradually, one can overcome the afflictive emotions, and through that, then one can achieve, by overcoming all the afflictive emotions, by overcoming the root of those afflictive emotions, the ignorance, then one is able to achieve the resultant Dharma, the cessations. And so the wisdom that understand the ultimate truth or reality directly, or the selflessness or the emptiness, that is the right view. The right view. That's the right view. The ignorant that misperceive the self and phenomena to exist inherently is the wrong view. And that's the wrong view. It's that misperceptions, that mistaken mind, that belief and that perceive the object to exist inherently or truly is the wrong view. And the right view is the opposite of that perceive the object such as the self and other phenomena as being empty of inherent existence, empty of truly existence, empty of existence by itself, is the right view. That is the right view. And that is the main antidote to destroy the delusion, especially the ignorance, the root of all delusion. And here, Kamalashita explained, understanding that right view correctly and analyzing is the right thoughts. Here he is explained, the understanding or correctly the right view, the emptiness, and then analyzing all that is the thought, the right thought. And then in some other explanations, in Nagarjuna, it explains, the right thought is the thought wanting to do something, the thought or intentions, that we have thought intentions, and with the right thought and intentions to study and reflect and contemplate the emptiness or the four seals, the four great seals is the right thought. The four great seals are all the conditioned phenomena are impermanent. All the contaminated experience are sufferings. All phenomena are selfless and empty, and nirvana is peaceful. So those are known as four great seals. And these are the principal philosophy of the Buddhist understanding, how all conditioned phenomena are ever-changing, transitory, impermanent. Anything that is conditioned phenomena, that is conditioned by cause and conditions, cause and other conditions, anything that their nature is that they don't last. They are very transitory, always changing, transitory, impermanent nature. Subject. Then next one is all contaminated experience are in the nature of sufferings. The experience contaminated here means, the experience, they are a result of delusion and contaminated karma. Are in nature, they are sufferings. They are not true happiness. They are not true happiness. Even though temporarily you might feel pleasant, but if you go more deeper, then they are not true happiness. They are in the nature of sufferings. So that is all contaminated experience in the nature of sufferings. And all phenomena are in the nature of selfless or empty, which all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, truly existing by itself, existing independently, because all phenomena are dependent arisings. All phenomena could only exist by depending on other conditions and other factors. It cannot exist by itself without depending on other factors. And then nirvana is peaceful, Nirvana, the so-called cessation nirvana, is the true peace, lasting peace. At the moment, whatever peace we feel, those are temporary, unstable, unreliable. is not lasting peace, no true peace. One moment we feel peace, and that moment, next moment, it changes into something else. But once you achieve the cessation, nirvana, then you have that peace all the time, permanently, everlasting. And so the nirvana is peace. So those are the what we call four seeds. Not understanding those nature of those reality and misunderstanding, misperceiving them are the cause of sufferings, ignorance. Even though, all the conditioned phenomena, all the contaminated experience and the nature of suffering, our mind and we perceive them to be happiness, mistakenly as a happiness. And therefore we are attached to them and we chase after them, and that leads to sufferings. If we understand these are those contaminated experience and the nature of suffering, we will not be attached to them, we will not chase after them out of those attachments. And if you don't have those attachments, chasing after that out of attachment, you will not suffer as we suffer. At the moment you are attached to some, let's say, attached to sweet, and that is very bitter, and you believe it's the sweet, and you chase after that, attached to that, and when you see it, instead of sweet, is a bitter. You are disappointed, disappointed, and all other feelings. Even though it's a nature of suffering, not knowing it's nature of suffering, instead believing it's the happiness. So today is enough. Buddha Dhamma Sangha. One is to them is enough. And even though all phenomena are in the nature of selfless and emptiness, then again, our ignorant mind and we perceive them to be inherent existing, and again, due to that, again, we create many other delusion arises, and due to that, we create many contaminated karma and delusion, and then again, we experience suffering. So that is not understanding and misperceiving the four great sins are the cause of the suffering, and understanding those four sins are the cause of happiness, having correct understanding or realization of that. So in Arjuna, he explained with the intentions, the thoughts. When we saw right thought is the intentions. With the right intentions, then studying, reflecting, contemplating on those four great seeds is the right thought. Whereas here, Kamala Shilas, you know. Mm. Receiving the right view, the right, and then contemplating, making on that is the right thoughts. And in some others, teachers, they also explain the loving kindness, compassions is included in the right thoughts. When you try to explain all the Buddha's teaching within the context of the Eightfold Path, where does compassion and loving kindness come into? Where does that fit into? So that fit within the right thoughts. That you see that explanation mostly in most of the Pali traditions teachings, more of the Pali tradition teaching, and that the loving kindness, compassions is part of this. The right thought. It fits. It comes within this the right thoughts, and I think that yeah. Mhm. I think in Mahayana, because they emphasize so much on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta as a specific separate topics. So I think maybe they don't explain within this context of the right thought. All these 12, all these four noble, no, the Eightfold Path are more related with the ultimate truth itself, related with more with that. Okay. So right view, right thought, right speech. Here Kamalashila says, the right speech is, explaining the ultimate truth correctly to others and reframing from all the faults of the speech. And it is interesting because, both Kamalashina and Nagarjuna, with all the Eightfold Path, they try to relate with the ultimate truth. In most of the Pali traditional explanation, they don't do that, So that is likely you find they emphasize on they emphasize with each of those, all of those Eightfold Path in relation to the emptiness, the ultimate the ultimate reality, the right view. So even here explaining the right speech, it explain, to be able to explain what ultimate truth is to others, the speech that explain correctly what the ultimate truth is to others, and not only that, to be able to avoid or refrain from all the faults of the speech. That means refraining from the fault of harsh speech, lying speech, divisive speech, meaningless, idle speech. So that is the right speech. Okay. So harsh speech, out of intention to hurt and harm something, and you use something hurtful, harsh speech, whatever that might be, however you use it, something that is hurtful to others, someone who experience hurt, by your speech, pain, harsh speech. Divisive speech is when you try to divide two individual or two group, or even two group or individual who have been divided, but there's a possibility of reconciliations. Through your speech, it makes them not to come. Do you get it? You are not dividing, they are already divided, but there is a scope, there is a possibility of them coming together, reconciling. But through your speech, you don't allow that to happen. You make them more further away. And that is, again, divisive speech. So again, and then lying, not telling the truth, not being honest with your speech, truthful with your speech, misleading, lying, and then meaningless, idle speech. And it is explained that meaningless idle speech are those speech that has no really true meaning, which only increase your affective emotions. We talk about something that increase jealousy through your speech. We talk about something that only increase attachments. We talk about something that increase our anger, hatred. Those speech are called meaningless idle speech. Speech that, even though speech might be not only lying, truthful, what you are talking about is not lying, neither is harsh speech, neither is a divisive speech, but by your that kind of speech, it makes others and yourself to increase those affective emotions. That is the ideal, meaningless idle speech. And that is, they say, even though directly is less, it is less harmful, but in long term is the one we engage more into, and therefore it becomes almost the worst one. So those are the four wrong speech or the false, and reframing from them is the right speech, together with explaining the original truth correctly to others. That's the right speech. And so we can see, how our speech can be harmful, hurtful to others and oneself. Therefore, many of the Katamba masters mention, in the midst of with others, watch your mouth. Keeping quiet is better than talking all the time. When we talk, sometimes it becomes divisive speech. Sometimes we don't have intention to divide, but because our divisive speech, it's the other person, the way they understand, then it becomes a divisive. Sometimes you have no intention of dividing someone, but then what you said for them, they hear in some way that divides. And then of course, a lot of our speech, either others and yourself, it increase your delusion. Sometimes we talk about great thing we did, this and that, and then the other get jealousy, or we ourselves get attached to that experience. Or sometimes we talk about how bad he did, she did, or that is what he's doing, she's doing. Then it make that other person angry and upset, and we ourselves become more angry and upset, isn't it? Or that person is horrible, that person did this and that, how horrible. And then is like adding a fuel. The person already have little bad feeling about that person's. The fire is already there, and with your speech, then is like adding the kerosene, and the fire become more stronger, and that person become agitated and activated the anger, and that also it affect you, and then you say, that's how bad, and then everyone's affected emotions increases, and it doesn't help much, but just increase our affected. So therefore, those Kadamba masters' advice is really good. When together with others, watch your mouth, your speech. Don't speak too much unless it's important, necessary, it's meaningful. When you are by yourself, watch your mind. That's what the advice. When you are by yourself, with no one to engage with your speech, then you have to watch your mind, because then your mind started to go everywhere. So coming to right speech, yeah. Right end of actions, right actions. So here, reframing from the action of such as healing and so forth, and purifying your action through your body. So that is again, reframing from such as healing, taking the life of others, stealing, and engaging in sexual misconduct. Because again, such actions, such actions and behavior hurts and harms others and oneself. Of course, it's easy to understand how killing hurts others. It takes someone's life. How stealing hurts others. Not only it hurts others, it also hurts yourself by creating the negative karma. You experience the consequence of that yourself. So it hurts others, it hurts yourself. It hurts everyone with such actions. Sexual misconduct, similar. Is you destroy the families. When you have physical relationship with someone's wife, someone's husband, and then you break their relationship, conflict, you bring conflict in that families, and you hurt and harm the whole families by creating that conflict. And then you are also experience suffering and also create negative karma and as consequence. So therefore, try to avoiding that is the action that is free from such those harmful actions to the physical is the right actions. Right, right, livelihood. And in here it didn't say, but like in many of the others, especially in you find, especially in Bali traditions, there's more. They're kind of in most of Mahayana. Mostly, it seems more related with the long livelihood for the ordained ones. There's, but like in many Pali traditions, then you find what's the wrong livelihood for the monks and nuns, and what's the wrong livelihood for the lay practitioners. And in for monks, nuns, ordained ones, then flattering, in order to get something from someone, flattering someone, that is not good. But by getting something, by flattering someone is a long livelihood, or indirectly, trying to say, oh, that was very useful. with the intention to get more from someone, then, or what you give me last time was very good and very nice, and it will be nice. So indirectly with your intention indicating that you want more of that. So those are kind of wrong livelihoods, there's 5 of those. And then for lay practitioners, as I mentioned, even though it's not mentioned here, and you don't find so much in the Mahayana scripture itself, but you find it quite often in Pali scriptures, such as any livelihood or professional or livelihood that kills the other animals, such as, professional in meats, for example, animals, those um, such as livelihood in producing weapons that takes the lives of others, having a livelihood by investing or by professional that does poisonings that takes others' life and so on. So again, there are those kind of 5, those we try to avoid that if possible, even though we have to make livelihood to survive and to live, but if possible, try to avoid engaging in such livelihood. Basically, that really directly hurts and harms others' lives, in that way. Try to live as much as livelihood which harms less, minimum as much as possible. Trafficking human beings is another one of those, professional, or you make livelihood by trafficking another human beings, yeah. So that is the right livelihood, right effort. Here it says, having an enthusiasm, to abandon the rest of the faults is the right effort. In Nagarjuna's, then, it is in order to study, reflect, contemplate, meditate on the 4 great seals of emptiness and putting effort to do that is the right effort. The right effort. So the right effort is when you put effort, your energy, effort in studying, reflecting, contemplating, meditating on the emptiness, the ultimate nature of the 4 great seal are the right effort. In other words, having a joyful effort, enthusiasm or joyful effort in engaging in something positive, something virtuous is the right effort. Instead of having the enthusiasm in engaging in something unhealthy, negative, or even neutral. A lot of time, sometimes we have a lot of joyfulness and enthusiasm and a lot of perseverance in engaging something negative, that is a wrong effort. That is a wrong effort. The perseverance, the effort you put is on the wrong objects. The objects of that effort is something not helpful, unwholesome. But on the other hand, when you put joyful enthusiasm and effort and perseverance in something virtuous, something positive, something, then that become the right effort talking about here, you know. Right mindfulness. Here it says, not forgetting and not losing the ultimate truth, and recollecting or remembering, that is the right mindfulness. And same in Arjuna, he explained, being mindful of the four seals, being mindful of the ultimate truth is the right mindful. On the other hand, being mindful of, things that hurts, harms others, that get distracted, all of that are the wrong mindfulness. Right mindfulness, yeah, is that. Right concentrations, similar. Here it says, in order to improve your inner positive quality, improve higher and higher, better and better. And then in order to do that, being in a deep meditations is the right concentrations. To be able to concentrate and meditate deeply in order to improve, increase your virtues, your positive qualities. Is that right? In Narajuna, the concentration, the object of your concentrations, to whom you are concentrating, free from being distracted, and laxity, but to be able to concentrate on the objects of ultimate truth and ultimate reality, emptiness, or the four great seal is the right concentration. On the other hand, even you are able to concentrate very well without being distracted and laxated, but if your objects is something negative, that's the wrong concentrations. Not the right concentration, wrong concentrations. Some people use examples. Snipers might be they need very concentrations, and they can have very strong concentrations. But that is the wrong concentrations. The object of their concentrations is to shoot someone, that is the wrong concentrations. Or sometimes we can concentrate on objects that are not necessarily virtues, not only not virtues, some of them which only increase our affective emotions, and such are the wrong concentrations. The right concentrations is that when you, as Narajuna explained, when you meditate and concentrate on the ultimate truth or four great seals, and to be able to keep your mind on that object without being distracted and without falling in the laxity and with intensity. That's the right concentrations. So these are the 8 noble paths. Okay. And yeah. And it was interesting, this Eightfold Noble Path explanation by the Amalekshana is slightly different, and both of them slightly different from that you see in Muslim body traditions. But of course, in Eastern, there's no different, but a little bit different way of explaining. This Eightfold Path of the noble ones. The noble ones are the Arya, which means noble one. Arya means those who have direct realization of emptiness. Anyone who has a direct realization of emptiness are called Arya. Arya beings, and in English, they translated as noble ones. So this Eightfold Path are not just right view, but it is right view, right thought, right speech, right livelihood, right actions, right effort, right mindfulness, at right concentrations of those Arya beings. That's this Eightfold Path of the noble ones combined with the attainment of its result and the nirvana. So that's why combined with the attainment of its result. What is the its result? Is the cessations. The result of those Eightfold Path. Okay? Are we clear? The cessation with the attainment is result and nirvana or the liberation. It's what the Bhagwan has called Dharma. So here, what Dharma means is the Eight Noble Path of those Arya beings, as well as the result of such path. That's the cessation, the nirvana, as I mentioned before. So it refers to both result and the path. Dharma. When Buddha said, whoever understands, whoever sees dependent arising will see Dharma. Okay? So in explaining that, what is dependent arising? And then whoever sees that dependent arising sees Dharma. So then what is the Dharma? So in explaining what the Dharma is, then here they explain Dharma in two. One path and one as a result. Both of them are the Dharma. The path and the result. The path is the Four Noble Eightfold Path of the Aryas, and the result is the cessation, the Nirvana. And when you talk about Nirvana cessations, then in the Arhat, who have achieved Nirvana, there are two Nirvana. First, maybe we can say, Nirvana with reminder and Nirvana without reminder. Remainder. It's not a remind, yeah. Remainder. Not remind, yeah. Remainder, thank you. Nirvana with remainder and Nirvana without remainder. And you will see that terms time to time, so you might wonder. Nirvana with remainder means those beings, when they were engaging in the path, they were not arhat, they have not achieved that path. So their rebirth is still result of their previous karma and contaminated actions. Then in this path, in this life, they meditate and then cultivate those Eightfold Noble Path, and then overcome all the delusion, afflictive emotions, and they are free. They are able to eliminate all those afflictive emotions. When they eliminate all those afflictive emotions, when their mind is free from all those afflictive emotions, then they achieve nirvana. Nirvana is state that's free from all afflictive emotion, the mental state that is free from all afflictive emotion. Okay. So that person's, that arhat, the arhat who have achieved that nirvana, freedom from all the afflictive emotions, there is no more afflictive emotions. They have achieved the nirvana, cessations, but still they still have this body, which they have to go through aging and death. Because this body is still the result of previous contaminated karma and the delusions. And that is what it called nirvana with remainder. They still have remain of this physical aggregates. That is the still remain of the previous karma and afflictive contaminated karma and afflictive emotions. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And then when they pass away, when they die, then that is nirvana without remainder. They have achieved the nirvana of total freedom from the afflictive emotion, delusion, and also they are free from this remainder. Now they don't have any body. That's a result of previous karma and contaminated karma and delusions. There's no more remain of that.
But couldn't they choose to be reincarnated into a body to provide more help to sentient beings?
Yes, even after they achieve arhat, and then later they develop compassion, bodhicitta mind, and then out of that compassion, bodhicitta mind, wanted to help me, they can come. But then when they come, then they don't. The physical aggregates is not what you call. It's not conditions by the afflictive emotion contaminated karma. The body is no more conditioned by that. They could come in a different form, like celestial forms. Also, they could come like our body, just similar like us. And even though from outside, it might feel like they are going through the same like ourselves, sickness, aging, and death, all of that. But it's not same the way we go it. They are not conditioned by that. But they still can go that way. Just like bodhisattvas can take a rebirth as the animals. From the way we see, they seem same, but they don't experience same way. Do you get it? When we look at that, we see that this is just animal, and they are just going through the same animal problems, pain, sufferings. But in actual, from their side, what they experience is very different. They don't experience same the way we seems they're experiencing.
Are they experiencing suffering
If it's
being in a body?
if someone like an arhat, then they don't experience. But some bodhisattvas they can experience who are not achieved arhat or who have not completely eliminated delusions, they can experience still some pain. Pain and suffering. So it depends on, yeah. Arhat, since arhat with non-remainder, then they don't experience any suffering because the normal cause of suffering, the delusion and contaminated karma, they are free from. There's no way. Bodhisattvas who are on their own path, when they achieve the eight bhumi, then they are also completely free from all the afflictive emotions and completely free from afflictive. Then again, there is no more cause for that. Until then, they could experience a certain level of pain. Yes.
What would be the purpose of a bodhisattva taking that type of, or an arhat taking that type of lifetime of an animal, for example?
The bodhisattvas, not only bodhisattvas, it is mentioned in the Sutra, even the Buddha can come in all different forms, sometimes to help and guide the animals. Sometimes it might be more helpful to come as an animal to help animals than come as a human beings. Maybe they are able to communicate themselves better than we humans can communicate with them, And yeah, there are many examples of that, even in Buddha's own life when he was on the path as a bodhisattva, how he comes in the different forms and in the animal forms, helping the animals, and also sometimes not only helping, inspiring animals, sometimes also even inspiring human beings through their actions, And so therefore, is mentioned, whatever they feel is the best to help benefit, particularly, society, particular group of beings, or particular specific individuals, then they might come in that form, Yeah. Yes.
I have a story.
Yes. Yes.
When my son was young, he was very, very, very difficult. He had a really hard time. And he and I were sitting out, and we were in Los Cordovas here in Taos. We were sitting outside one day, and we were looking up at the sky and looking at the clouds, and we saw this dog in the clouds. And we described him to each other. We were really clear about what this dog looked like up in the clouds. And a few days later, we went to the post office in town and got out of the car. We were walking in, and this dog, who looked just like this dog that we had seen in the sky, threw himself on my feet. He ran up and lay down on my feet. And okay. And so I kind of looked around. This woman walked up to me and said, "Oh, is that your dog? I'm so glad. He's been here all day." And I just was so worried about him. Well, I said, "Well, I'll take him, and I'm going to take him to all the different vets and see if, who he belongs to." And I went to all the vets in town. There were 4 in those days. Nobody had ever seen him before. He turned my son's life around. He stayed with us, and he became the best friend of my son, who was having such a hard time. And we finally got my son, long story short, we finally got my son on some meds, and life started changing for him, and he was getting himself under control. And this dog manifested. He got run over and killed. He had done his job. It seemed to me that he had manifested to help my son. My son was going, and he had other work to do. And he left.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Wow.
so that's how I believe that the horses, the animals can
Wow.
manifest.
Yeah.
Manifest as animals.
Yeah, you hear many stories similar like that, where human beings are unable to help, and then certain animals, not all the animals have that kind of quality, but there's certain animals that seem to have incredible quality to heal and help beings who have that kind of problem or other problems. And we cannot say for sure they are not a manifestation bodhisattvas. There could be one of those bodhisattvas. It could be one of those Buddhas. It's hard for us to, unless we have clairvoyance, we can read others' mind and read the minds of that animals. Then maybe you might be say, "Oh, it's not a bodhisattva. He hasn't reached that point. He's still an animal, but he has that quality at night ones, but unless then it's hard for us to know, and there could be the bodhisattva's manifestation is possible. Therefore, in one of the sutras, Buddha's mention, not that I was a personal, another person cannot really know other persons. Therefore, we have to be more careful in judging others. You cannot judge someone by external appearance because you cannot read their mind. You know. So sometimes externally it might seem not so great, but you never know their mind. It might be the most soft mind. They could have the most compassion, most kindness, most soft mind. Even though externally it doesn't seem like that. And the other way around too. So therefore, as Buddha mentioned in that Sutra, unless we are able to read others' mind, you shouldn't judge others so easily. Shouldn't judge others just by the appearance. And so that would be case same with the animals. From appearance, it look like ordinary animals, but they could be enlightened beings, bodhisattvas, or even Buddhas. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Yes, please.
Okay, so bodhisattvas and sometimes Buddhas can take the form of animals. What other forms can they take in order to guide humans? For example, can they take the shape of another human?
Yes, for sure. Any kind of, they can take in the shape of any kind of beings in 6 realms. And in some sutra, not only they talk about they take a shape in the any of the 6 realms, but they can even take a shape of like a bridge or water and all other, which seems like what they call inanimate objects too. And there's sometimes you hear stories, people they're lost something and from nowhere then they saw a bridge, they cross, and then when they cross the bridge is gone. They are not like kind of mentally disturbed, and they just can't believe what they just thought there was a bridge. They just crossed, they just saw cross and bridge, but once they crossed it there, the bridge is gone. They cannot see it. There are many stories of like that, and a lot of stories like that. Those people, many of them are mentally stable. They didn't take mushroom or other substances, and their mind is stable. But sometimes there are stories, sometimes like that happens. Something appear and disappear, appear and serve purpose, and then suddenly disappear. And again, we cannot say for sure. Maybe it wasn't a manifestation of one of the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. They manifested, did their job, and then they disappeared. Definitely in the Sutra, it does mention that they can manifest that not only as a beings in all 6 realms, in any of the 6 realms, in all 6 realms, but even as non-beings, such as inanimate objects. Yeah. So definitely there is a source of the teaching in the sutras of that. So then we'll do the dedications.
We dedicate the merit created by listening to this teaching for the health and long life of all of our teachers. We dedicate for all sentient beings everywhere, specifically those experiencing obstacles such as Howard, Adrian, Wyatt, Gaza, Ovion, Atlas Kirkendall, Martin Palomino, Jonathan Morales, Cynthia Peterson, Sophie Rojas, Matt V, Taryn A, Allie J, Raquel, Zach, Laura, Alyssa, German Shepherd who killed dog. We also dedicate for those experiencing illness, such as Patty, Bill, Jane, Infant Deer, Stella, Kathy, Rolf, Emma, people affected by the attack in Boulder, Colorado, Sarah, Robert, Ersting, Taryn A, Allie J. We also dedicate for those who have died in the last 49 days or who are dying, such as Pope Francis, John Kane, the Duck family, Tiffany, Bob Andrews, Weston Gosa Jr., Devin, Hargis, Zachary Adamson, Gaza deaths, the raccoon, beings who were killed by the Indian Airways plane crash, Leroy Rodriguez, Sandra the dog, Lou Mogenberg, Malcolm E., 2 teenagers, and Margie Woodall. Can you add 2 names for me? Illness. Kevin, and. Okay, that's fine. Octavia Davis. We'll do our dedication prayer once in Tibetan. Gewadi. Long life prayer for His Holiness Dalai Lama. The wish granting, wish fulfillment, jewel, soul order, and single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparable honor and attention of the highest age. May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And for the reincarnation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and suddenly of the children of the victorious ones, providence and the party of Buddhas, victorious Lord Son, Father and Sons, along of the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge within and advance, please bestow the virtue and goodness of unbelievers and spirit now. Holiness, their kingdom, and come to their teachings, through eternal practice. You are the honor of patience and perseverance. In humble and you I make request. Once having single pointedly for the sake of the victorious one seekings, the song and way through which all benefit and happiness emerge. And for the loving beings, who suddenly depart into peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the unforgiving truth of the blessings in the ocean of individuals, and the living weight of those children of the glorious ones, may the smile of reincarnations be grateful for fulfillment. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.